Hi, welcome to the Mental Mend. My name is Maria. You are valued, you are loved, you are worth the effort. Let's get started. For today's video, we are going to be defining grief, explaining what it is, going through the 5 stages of grief, and everything else that you may need to know in the grieving process. So what is grief? It is just a natural response to loss. I know you think there's some crazy definition and it isn't. It's pretty plain and simple. So this could be a loss of a job, maybe your friend moves away, it could be a miscarriage, or it could be a death. This experience for each person and each situation is different. And when people a lot of the times think of the grieving process, they think it's this like linear thing. You're like, okay, I'm gonna go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and be done. And it isn't like that. One day you may be in denial, next day you're angry, then you're back into denial. And yeah, so what are the 5 stages of grief? Let's go through it. So the 5 steps of grief are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So the first step of grief is denial. It's basically your body's defense mechanism to say like, whoa, like we can't handle this. Like this information is not real. We cannot compute. It kind of gives your brain the time it needs to adjust to the situation in order to fully process those emotions. Grieving is anger. Typically this presents as anger either towards yourself or persons involved in the situation, or it could be no one in the situation at all. It could just be someone close to you. Know that these feelings are normal and take steps in typical anger management to deal with them instead of lashing out on those people who maybe didn't have anything to do with the situation or don't even know what's going on. The next step we're going to discuss is bargaining. Typically, this is seen as, bargaining with God, the universe, whatever, like, please take me instead of this person. It's the false hope. It's a desperate attempt for your brain to return back to normalcy and have the life you had before experiencing this loss. Once again, I cannot reiterate this stuff enough. These emotions, if you experience them, are normal, and to help bridge you to that normalcy is knowing about them. Hence why you're watching this video. Next step is depression. It's the typical one you would expect with a loss. It's the crying, sad, isolating yourself, not wanting to eat, not wanting to talk, not wanting to drink. This doesn't mean you're diagnosed with depression. It's just the terminology to use to describe that type of behavior that is also typically seen in the grieving process. And the last step we have is acceptance. It doesn't mean that you're okay with what happened. It means that you're going to be okay after what happened. So, for example, it's not my husband died and I'm okay with that fact. It's my husband died and I'm going to be okay. So that kind of phrasing, a lot of people think that most of the time is that you have to be okay with the event that occurred, and you don't have to. You don't have to be okay with it, but you do have to accept that it happened. So that's that 5th stage. And like I said previously, you're not going to experience all these stages one after another. So how you know you're toward the end of your grieving process is you have more good days than bad. You have more acceptance days than depression days or angry days or bargaining days or denial days. It takes time, and unfortunately that's something we can't buy. Other symptoms of the grieving process can be headache, difficulty sleeping, isolating from normal activity, isolating from social events, fatigue, guilt, frustration, aches and pains, loss of appetite, stress, questioning life's purposes or beliefs, and abnormal behavior. So there's a lot of treatments for the grieving process, not necessarily treatments, but coping mechanisms that you can use. And honestly, the best one is the one that's best for you. Some people cope really well by going to support groups. Other people prefer seeking counseling on an individual Other people want nothing to do with counseling, and that's okay. Figure out what works best for you. It can be journaling, it can be going to support groups, it could be seeing a counselor, it could be talking with your friends and family. It could even be engaging in leisure activities that either make you happy or things that you enjoyed with that person. For example, my grandmother loved chocolate cake, and she passed away in January of 2019. So every time I miss her, I eat a piece of chocolate cake. It is not good for my waistline, but it is great for coping and dealing with the grieving process. So what you need to do in your homework is figure out what activities are good for you in your grieving process and seek resources in that. A lot of places, especially if your loved one died in a hospice program, if that's the loss you're experiencing, you have support groups. If you contact your hospice person, they have a lot of support groups and they can help you with that as well. You can also look for bereavement groups as well. Sometimes they're under that terminology. So 1 in 10 people will experience something that we call prolonged grief disorder. This happens when you're experiencing more bad days than good a year after the initial loss event occurred. So say you lose your dog on January 1st, 2020. And at January 1st, 2021, you're experiencing significant anger, depression, different things like that. After that, I would highly recommend you seek professional help. Thank you so much for watching my video. I really hope you learned something new. There's also additional resources in the description below. Please make sure to check them out. Also, please make sure to like and subscribe. When you do that, it pushes this video in the algorithm and you may help someone else today who's experiencing the same thing you are because of that. Have fun, be safe, make good choices, take your meds if you need to, drink your water, and I'll see you guys next time. So can we just peep my dog joining me? Hi, Dixie. Hi.